Hey friends, Michele here. I bring over 25 years of health industry experience to everything I do as a certified fitness and nutrition coach and host of a top 2% global women's health and wellness podcast. And I don't just share these conversations on the mic. I bring them to live audiences. I've moderated women's health panels, interviewed top experts on stage, and spoken to women's groups about thriving in midlife through metabolic health, strength, and longevity. My mission is to help women feel strong, capable, and in control of their long-term health. If you're planning an event on women's health, midlife wellness, or personal growth, I'd love to be part of it. Reach out through LinkedIn or the link in the show notes. Let's make your next event unforgettable and meaningful. Health, wellness, fitness, and everything in between. We're removing the taboo from what really matters in midlife. I'm your host, Michele Folan, and this is Asking for a Friend. More than 10 million Americans are living with osteoporosis, and 80% of them are women. By age 50, 1 in 2 women will break a bone because of it. The scary part? Most have no idea their bones are weakening until it's too late. When I got my DEXA scan results, I found myself face to face with this reality. In today's episode, I'm sharing my personal osteoporosis journey, what my diagnosis was, the exact steps I took to start reversing my bone loss, and how you can take action now to protect your strength, mobility, and independence for decades to come. I wanted to do another solo show, and I'm going to be doing them on occasion, so don't be surprised. But this one is really a follow-up to a couple weeks ago. I let you all know on Instagram that I got the results of my DEXA scan. And I was very excited because when I was first diagnosed with osteoporosis, I did not get the answers that I wanted from the doctor. And I have to say that you go through these different feelings. So at first I was like, oh shit. And then I was a little fearful because I wondered, gosh, what does this mean for me long term? Am I going to be able to turn this around without being put on some kind of a pharmaceutical? And so there was a lot to all of this, right? But when I mentioned this to my audience out there, I got so many responses and questions that I thought, okay, maybe I need to do a show about this. But it also brought to light the fact that there are so many women out there in midlife that are facing this. And honestly, many don't know that they have osteoporosis. My question to my listeners is, do you know your numbers? Have you had a DEXA scan yet? The guidelines suggest that you have one at the age of 65. My argument would be that that is way too late because you can turn this around. I've had 2 guests on my podcast that were diagnosed with osteoporosis in their 20s and 30s because of eating disorders or absorption issues due to celiac. And we lay down most of our bone by the time we're 30. And Dr. Doug Lucas suggested that we should be testing women as young as 30 to see what our baseline is. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, try to get that paid for by insurance. I wish you luck. But if there is a family history or there was a prior history of, say, metabolic issues, disordered eating, or perhaps an autoimmune disease that prevented absorption, maybe there is an argument there just to test earlier. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to have that data. So if you've not had your DEXA scan yet, it's time to go. I'll share exactly what I've done since my diagnosis to start reversing my bone loss and how you can take steps today to protect your own bone health. I do want to add, as I always do, I am not a medical professional. And some of the things I'm going to tell you to do really are based on the severity of my diagnosis or lack of severity. There are people out there that have far worse bone health than I do. And for some folks, yes, maybe doing a pharmaceutical or a biologic is the necessary first step. But for me, even though that was offered, I declined and decided to do this on my own. Of course, the first step was to have the conversation with the doctor. Now, my normal nurse practitioner was out on medical leave. I had the opportunity to speak to her partner, and he doesn't know me. So in all fairness, he doesn't have any ownership of me, but I did expect to get more than, well, we're going to have you increase your vitamin D and your calcium. We're going to have you on a bisphosphonate like Fosamax, and we'll see you back in 2 years. That was the conversation. And I decided, okay, that's not good enough. I have no idea why you think that's a great idea for me, but my goal is to avoid fractures, to stay mobile and independent until I'm in my 80s. So I decided my approach would be multi-pronged. This was not just one thing that I had to fix, and it certainly was not going to be fixed with a bisphosphonate because I was not going on a drug. Now, I will say this. I clearly was not in a state where the bisphosphonate was absolutely mandatory. But if you have really poor bone health and you need to be on a bisphosphonate, like a pharmaceutical or a biologic, then that is up to you and your doctor to make that decision. I decided that I would move from more general health type of goals to being a little more bone specific in my health habits. And one of the very, very first things that I did was I went to a physical therapist. I thought working with a PT, she could show me proper form to make sure I wouldn't hurt myself and to show me some exercises that would be good specific for building bone, particularly in my lower lumbar, which is where my osteoporosis was. I wanted expert guidance on form and safety. I didn't want to just go out there on my own and think I knew everything because I didn't. I followed Buff Bones, it's Rebecca Rothstein. She's been on my show twice. I followed Kevin, the bone coach, which I had already followed him anyway because he had been on my show. And then I also followed Dr. Doug Lucas. These are all super great resources for you if you have osteoporosis or you just really want to work on your bone health. I learned exactly what I need to do to stimulate bone growth. So, compound lifts, impact, posture training, making sure I am sitting correctly. And then I decided that at that point too, I needed a more structured program. I had been looking at Faster Way and the timing worked out perfectly. I joined Faster Way around this time because getting more intentional about my strength training, structured more progressive overload because I knew I was going to have to increase my weights, and then also nutrition. Protein was absolutely the goal, right? Because I needed to up my protein to get at least, I go for 110 to 120 grams per day, but balanced macros with healthy fats and plenty of fiber because I want to make sure that I'm absorbing all my nutrients. Looking back at like the physical piece of this, I wanted to learn more about squats and deadlifts and lunges and push-ups and weighted carries, impact balance, doing step-ups, single leg work. I really wanted to challenge my bones, challenge my muscles to try to do this the most natural way that I could. On top of the macronutrients like protein and fiber and all that stuff, we should talk about micronutrients. And we all know calcium's important for bone health, and you can get that from food and from supplements. I do both. There's also vitamin K2, which I take a combo K2 MK4 that has D3 in it. That I get from NBI Health. Again, I had the founder of the company. He is a big researcher in osteoporosis and bone health. And I decided to take that product because of the data that he had. I will put that in the show notes. I take a collagen with Fortibone, and there are quite a few brands out there that use Fortibone as part of their components. I just choose to do this particular combination because I'm like, all right, there is some data that shows that this particular type of collagen is beneficial for bone health. There's also magnesium glycinate that helps with bone mineralization. And then zinc. You don't want to take a ton of zinc. I think I take 25 milligrams per day, but that also helps with healthy bone. As a disclaimer, I need to say this. Do not add any supplements to your current regimen without asking your doctor, because I have no clue what else you're taking and what may interact. I'm just telling you what I take. There's one more thing when you think about bone health is hydration. Hydration is incredibly important beyond just getting your 8 glasses a day. What I tell my clients is that drink half your body weight in ounces every day. That is a great starting point. You'll feel better if for anything, and it helps with the transport of nutrients to your bone. There are some other lifestyle changes that I've made that I believe are worth mentioning. I want to talk about alcohol first. I don't want any eye rolls, but it's important to mention. I went from being a daily alcohol drinker, even if it was just 1 glass of wine, I probably drank almost every day, to occasional. Alcohol does affect bone turnover, it affects hormones, it affects your sleep, and it can mess with your gut microbiome. And again, back to the absorption piece, I want to make sure that my gut is in tip-top shape to ensure that all these wonderful macro and micronutrients that I'm taking are getting absorbed properly. I just feel like there's so much data out there now to support cutting back on alcohol or quitting altogether that this made great sense in terms of the osteoporosis diagnosis. And for those that have listened to my podcast, you all know that I have had my sober curious moments from years ago that have now translated to me really having a much better relationship with alcohol. And I'm very happy where I am right now. Something else that's to think about is getting outside, getting daily sunshine to help boost your vitamin D production. And also it helps with your mood. Try to get outside and enjoy the sun, particularly early morning where that resets your circadian rhythm. So sleep is also the other piece of this, right? Bones remodel at night. You want to protect your deep sleep. Try to adopt some good sleep hygiene habits, going to bed at the same time, a cool, dark room, limit screen time at night. That's a big one. We could talk about sleep for hours, but just know that there is a benefit to making sure that you guard your sleep, because obviously bone is part of that whole equation. The next step was to get my hormones optimized. If you remember, after my hysterectomy, I was on vaginal estrogen and testosterone, just those 2 things. I decided at that time it was a good idea to switch my GYN to find someone a little more progressive that was going to kind of give me a better plan forward with my hormone therapy. We decided then to put me on oral estrogen, but keep in mind now I'm on a patch, but that's a whole nother story. And I talked a little bit about that in my other solo episode recently. But estrogen is really the MVP hormone when it comes to bone health. It helps slow down the activity of osteoclasts. Those are the cells that break down bone, which keeps bone loss in check. Because after menopause, when estrogen levels drop, bone breakdown speeds up dramatically. And this is why women are, of course, at higher risk for osteoporosis, particularly midlife. So in short, estrogen helps maintain bone density and strength by keeping bone breakdown under control. The other change I made was getting progesterone added. I do not have a uterus, so typically doctors don't think about putting you on progesterone unless you have a uterus, but I was able to have that discussion with my doctor. And the reason why I wanted to be on progesterone, because it does support bone formation by stimulating the osteoblasts. Those are the cells that build bone. And while estrogen is more about slowing bone loss, progesterone contributes to bone gain. Healthy progesterone levels encourage regular bone remodeling, and that's the ongoing process of removing old bone and building new bone, which is key to maintaining resilient bones over time because we want to have that turnover happening. All right. And then the testosterone, I didn't change anything about the testosterone. I still stayed on the topical compounded version, but it gets overlooked a lot because testosterone, it really is crucial for bone health. It increases bone density by stimulating both osteoblast activity and muscle mass, which indirectly protects our bones. Stronger muscles mean, of course, better balance, less fall risk, more load bearing on the bones. And that's very essential. That's a trigger, right, for bone strength. In short, testosterone helps build bone mass and muscle, and that's giving bones both density and protection. Again, you've heard my mantra before that if you haven't found a doctor that will listen to you and your concerns about HRT, whether it's for symptoms that you're having in regard to your menopause or because you've had bone loss or osteoporosis diagnosis, it's time to find a new doctor. What I want women to hear is that osteoporosis is common, but it's not inevitable. You can take action even after diagnosis. This is not a death sentence. And knowledge is power. Know your numbers and start building habits now. This is about future-proofing your body so it carries you into your 80s and beyond. And you know, if you follow me at all, that is my main goal. I've mentioned a few of the past guests I've had on the show where we've discussed bone health. I want to tell you which episodes those are so you can find them more easily. I'll put these in the show notes, so if you're driving, you don't have to try to write these down. Episode 21. This was with Kevin Ellis. He is the bone coach. Kevin himself has osteoporosis. He had celiac that was undiagnosed, and this is his passion. He has a fantastic program and also products available. I use the collagen that he promotes and like it very much. Episode 63 and 118, that's Rebecca Rothstein. She is the founder of the Buff Bones Method. Again, she has a fantastic program available. Cool thing about Rebecca is that she does work with a lot of women who have severe osteoporosis where they really have to have a very gentle start. It could be gentle Pilates, yoga, and her program is world-renowned. People know her all over the world in this realm. Episode 126 was with Dr. John Neustadt. Dr. John Neustadt is the researcher that has done an amazing amount of work on supplementation, and that's the K2 MK4 brand that I use. He is the founder of NBI Health. And then episode 156 with Dr. Doug Lucas. He is the founder of the Osteo Collective. He is a wealth of knowledge. He is a orthopedic surgeon turned osteoporosis specialist, and I will likely have him back on the show here soon. I am going to be partnering with the Osteo Collective to continue to get the word out about the importance of bone in midlife. So get your DEXA scan. Don't wait for symptoms. Pick 1 or 2 bone building habits to start this month. And then if you could, share this episode with a friend who needs to hear this message, and continue to follow my bone health journey on Instagram. And if you want structured support, you can check out my 6-week metabolism reset, where we work on your strength, your nutrition, and lifestyle. Because trust me, all of those things matter when it comes to your overall health, your bone health, and aging for longevity. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the show where you listen to the podcast. And did you know that asking for a friend is available now to listen on YouTube? You can subscribe to the podcast there as well. Your support is appreciated and it helps others find the show. Thank you.